So look, let me try and give you an overview, my version of this, AI's evolution on workplaces, workers, and societies, because AI, gosh, we're not speaking clear tonight. AI impacts everything. It has, and it will, and it's going to impact things even more as we progress over the next couple of years. Luke has mentioned, I've written books on this. I've written hundreds of articles. I've turned up at all sorts of podcasts and events. I live and breathe this. I'm not someone who just writes about it, but I actually am over here delivering consulting and masterclasses and everything else, because this world changes and you can't afford to step away from the cold face at any particular time. If you do, things have just changed too much. You remain, or will be, rather irrelevant. I'm going to talk about that later on, because AI and agentics, as we'll talk about later on, have a massive impact on people's careers. So like, what are we going to cover today? Well, we got an hour. Let's see if it takes an hour. But this topic you could talk about all day. I'll resist. But we're going to look at AI journey and its velocity. Things are changing faster than ever. We're going to look at robotic process automation and move over to intelligent automation, then to adaptive automation. And there's lots of acronyms and phrases, and I'll try and keep everybody on track with them as well. In the IT or tech or business industry, we're never short of an acronym. So let's try and settle on those. I don't really mind if people call something the same, three different things, as long as we understand what it does. What does the AI divide mean for businesses and workers? Because we are going to create divisions in labor. We're going to have digital haves and have-nots. We've got AI natives now, never mind digital natives, but lots are falling behind. We're going to talk about AI readiness versus AI stagnation, and what you need to do to get in a position to actually compete, never mind win in this game. I'm going to look at global competitiveness, because that's important. We're seeing a lot of geopolitics happening at the moment. I wish we didn't, but this, again, technology is too powerful, and it will have economic, social, and, sad to say, or whatever way we want to say it, military consequences. We're going to look at capabilities, and we're going to talk about imminent disruption, but this is not a fad, agentic AI. This is there. This will change industry. This will change how we buy. Will it interrupt B2C, B2B, and end up agent-to-agent procurement, purchasing, transaction? I wouldn't be surprised. Look, let's talk about the future as we now see it, and then we'll look a little bit about legislation, ethics, and leadership, because all these things are changing and being changed by AI. I do want to set the tone, though. This is my tone. This should be your tone. There's a danger in talking about technology and getting excited by it and talking too much about it. I wish we talked about people as excitedly. But the only thing that matter to me are business outcomes. Thankfully, this is one of those technologies, and AI is one of those things that moves beyond talking shops. Agentic AI moves beyond providing information, as we can see pretty pictures and text in OpenAI or Anthropic's version Claude or Perplexity or whatever variation you want. This is about taking real action as digital workers to deliver real value. And I'm going to talk about the move from RPA, because some of this is not new, but some of this is quite different. So let's dig in. Let's talk about the AI journey and its velocity. So let's say we're in the fourth, or some might argue fifth, industrial revolution. I want you to look at the left, though. When we start talking about the 1780s, please stay with me. That's when the first industrial revolution is considered to happen. Look at the second. It didn't happen for another, whatever you want to call it, 70, 100 years. And then we go to the third, and it was somewhat similar. Now we're in what we might call the fourth, of the digital revolution. And look how this has changed over the last couple of years. So what used to be a huge time cycle of change, or change took a long while to happen, that time cycle is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about generative AI. Now we're talking about agentic AI. The data we have, the power of compute that we have, the knowledge that we now have is causing things to accelerate even further. As someone said, changes never happen faster than today. I think we need to accelerate that particular statement. It'll never be slower. AI will never be as bad as it is today. And today, it's pretty impressive if you look at it. There's one area I love talking about, which is Japan 5.0. Go on to YouTube, type that in. Numbers of years ago, they struggled with an aging population, under productivity. And I'm going to come back to that, which is why I have that there. But fascinating the strides that they have done to get themselves technologically positioned to move into the next phase of work and ways of working. But trust me, we are in an accelerated space. What we're seeing today will change tomorrow and the next day and the next day. The one sad thing I see is people look at yesterday's technology to prepare for today. I would encourage you all to look at tomorrow's technology to prepare for today, as opposed to looking at yesterday's technology. Otherwise, you end up in a legacy debt position. But look at what we're talking about these days, by the way, folks. All of these things are natural in narrative. We recognize all of these words. Hybrid working, 5G, dissipated by 6G. Huawei are doing a lot now on that, creating, Wi-Fi, seamless factories, tablets, smartphones, smartwatches, agentic AI, machine learning, NLP, NLU, digital twins, apps for everything. Interestingly, will we see agents for everything? So rather than having just an app, will we end up, there's an agent for that, not an app for that? Let's see, is this going to be an evolution or a revolution? I think very often that depends upon you. But agentic AI, vast data sets, vast computing power will be around longer than we think. But I don't want you to get excited, as I'm seeing a lot of people, my neighbor included, saying, what's this Gen AI thing? As a physio, it's not something he normally touches. When it reaches that level of knowledge, you start to wonder and worry about, is this AI something new? It's not. AI is an 80-year-old overnight success story. Started, or the word itself was invented by McCarthy in the 56, I believe it was, when they went to Dartmouth to try and create another human. As you can imagine, we're still struggling with that today. But agentic AI may just be that thing with a generative AI back end that allows us to work in a different way than we ever have before. But it's not new. That's the oddity. Now, what is new, apart from the winters and the summers that we've had over the years, is the compute, and the cost of the compute is phenomenal. You'd have seen recently the announcement of hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment in large data centers. And then you would have seen last week another Gen AI provider coming out with, rather than 60 billion or 600 billion or 500 billion, as President Trump announced the other day, it was 6 million. Now, whether you believe that figure or not is another matter. Even if it was 60 million, it's still not 60 billion, and it's still not 600 or 500 billion. But the cost of technology is going down and down and down, which excites me, because suddenly all of this technology becomes a lot more affordable for governments and societies and businesses. And we ourselves are spending our $20, $40 a month can suddenly benefit hugely. Lots of studies done recently, not just anecdotally. I know I'm, dramatically more performant, dramatically my innovativeness, or should I say LLM or ChatGPTs or Perplexities, or all of the models I use, co-intelligence is suddenly accelerating through the roof. The quality of the work that I produce thanks to Gen AI, the speed at which I produce it is amazing. All for $20, $40, $60, $100 a month. Can you imagine if everybody started investing in those technologies in the education as well, what we would have? But this truly is AI's iPhone moment, or Gen AI was. Now we've Agentics, which is an amalgam on top. So this really could be an accelerated time. But you've been using AI for years. If you've used Amazon, you use Netflix, the recommendation engines and those have set them apart. Now the interesting piece will be, well, how will that progress later? Will we end up, for example, with Amazon sending us stuff in the post, or their agentic AI sending us stuff in the post before we even order it? It knows about us more than we know about ourselves, because we hand our destiny to AI and let us watch everything that we do, and to a degree predict our movements, predict our likes and dislikes from all of our patterns of behavior inside of work, outside of work. So we end up with not worrying about the last mile, where producers worry that they're not delivering product fast enough. What we'll end up doing is returning product that we may not want, but we'll probably end up having more than we need. That's called anticipatory AI, and agents will allow that. But we've been using AI for years. Netflix, for example, if you and I log in, we to get different images on the screen. That text is presented in a different way. It's hyper-personalized. And there's companies out there at the moment like Procter & Gamble producing 50 different ads a day, watching what we're doing. And it's very AI-driven, but people-driven at the same time, where you and I get unique messages. And as those messages land, they get refined and sharpened. And you can imagine now with agentic AI, digital workers doing that for companies like them. But look, what's happening, the time now, as I mentioned earlier on, for technology to improve is extraordinary. But look at what we're talking about here when it came to the actual distribution of technologies. I use ChatGPT as an example. You remember, we no longer search, we Google. At the moment, it appears to be we no longer chatbot, we chat GPT. But there are phenomenal other number of LLM engines out there, or generative AI engines with different fronts than ChatGPT itself. So I believe you should actually try numbers of them to see what you would particularly like. But this here has got into people's psyche. Now, all of a sudden, instead of needing millions of dollars to perform actions, you've a handy interface, and that handy interface is a chatbot, and that chatbot's intelligent or appears to be intelligent. Remember, it's a predictive engine, so it's not human in any shape, form, or other. Please don't get confused. But now all of a sudden we can answer all of the world's questions in a communication. It's simple. Typing, natural language. We don't need data scientists. We don't need data engineers. But this has taken on a life of its own with, it doesn't matter, anyone and everyone I know possible. It doesn't matter you're in technology anymore. It's everyone in business, every country I visit. So when I'm in Amsterdam, in London, in Riyadh or beyond, or Oslo, everybody's using this tech. If you're not, please don't worry, but please do start. Now we can achieve anything. We can achieve everything, or so we're told. There are limitations to this. There are risks, and I would encourage you to look at those limitations and risks as well. But try your different models for all your different items that you want. AI is, though, it's transformative, and it's going to continue to transform. Look at the top lines here. Do you see the numbers that are being quoted? So I used perplexity.ai. Of course I had to. It's a research tool based on AI to get some of these numbers. It has authoritative sources behind them. But remember, I mentioned earlier on that the cycle of development in technology is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Look at the last 3 years alone. Look at the sums of money and the products and the versions of these tools that are working and working wonderfully well. We're on generation 1, 2, or 3, depends what way you want to count it, or 4 if you're talking about OpenAI. Imagine what these are going to be like when you've generation 10, generation 20. Imagine what things are going to be like in the next 4 years. What is going to be capable? How will businesses operate? How will the world operate itself? Well, let's see. I think that's to be decided. I was at a conference in Dublin a little while ago, and someone said, how do I stop AI telling me what to do? And I thought, you've really got confused. We need to control this technology as opposed to being controlled by it. But let's talk about the journey. I did promise you I would do this, because some of you might argue that, look, but RPA was here before robotic process automation. Now you're talking about adaptive or intelligent automation. Which is it? Well, let's take the journey. So some of you might recognize, if you've been in the field numbers of years, this particular diagram, where what you ended up with is a transition from robotic process automation, which is digital workers taking on some very routine, repetitive, digital, very predictable tasks. It had to have a workflow. It had to be deliberate. There wasn't much allowance for exceptions to processes. There certainly wasn't an allowance for any sort of cognitive thinking, although attempts were made through intelligent AI when it ended up putting some artificial intelligence into the mix. Now you could have little bits of fuzzy logic. So when you asked the chatbot something, it didn't say no to you every single time. We started to look at virtual workers. We started to look at machine-based execution. And some companies ended up as intelligent enterprises, where they really embrace that. And that's the message that needs to come away today. The technology that we deal with, or we're talking about today, it's just better than the technology that we've had before. Now, significantly better, yes. But the technology that is here has been around for a while. You can do anything and everything with technology. It comes down to your ambition and your appetite. But now we really have a set of tools where some of the prior complaints will disappear. So when we talked about robotic process automation or intelligent automation or whatever we're talking about, that has migrated on. We needed the clickety-click, then we needed the thinkety-think, but we still need to overcome process mess. And processes won't change. And thanks to Nandan Mulkaka, I stole this picture off the internet. It still doesn't remove this technology, the need to fix processes, the need to have a good data structure, the need to have good data governance. But we can certainly move away from some of the tech debt in the past, and we can certainly move away from some of the items that we had in the past. So if you look at what we had, and I've used the title, notice the strike through. The original promise of RPA is that it would replace human labor. One company, I will not name them to leave them blameless, used to tell me often if you had 50 digital workers, you had digitally transformed. I don't think they quite got that one right, and they've struggled a bit in the market since, but a quality product. But automation was very rote, very routine. It was very waterfall. You had to follow A to B to C. It was very much about human labor controlling digital labor, human labor deciding what would happen. There were predefined paths, and paths and orders couldn't be dynamically altered in any shape, form, or other. They were predetermined paths. But to the question below, How many business scenarios, how many business processes actually looked like that? How many look like that today? Well, now we've got a new paradigm. And this is the one we're talking about, which is we're moving from RPA, we're moving from intelligent automation up to autonomous agents. In other words, we put large language models in the middle of these things. We feed large quantities of data into the flow, and we get autonomous agents to start to work things out. So we're no longer restricted by workflows. We're no longer restricted by deliberate action. Now we have things that can think and decide and act, who don't need to be as logical as the most routine process that you can ever imagine. LLMs help decide what's actually happening. We give these agents goals. And again, I'll use the word APA, autonomous agents, agentic AI seamlessly. But these digital workers, we give them goals and they work it out. Mentally, if you think about this, Fukushima, the nuclear plant, it's not safe for humans to go in. They sent in robots years ago that got stuck. Now the robots are given a goal. The robots go under the water, they work things out, they move to the left, they move to the top, they move up and down and move sideways. They work things out because they've been given a mission and they're dynamic. So all of a sudden, agentic AI has moved beyond just providing information and pretty cartoons or pictures of cats or whatever panda you've got in a hat in a boat to actually taking action and delivering. And I'll go back to this same thing repeatedly. We need to focus agentic AI on delivering real business value. So now your workflow patterns have changed. They're not predefined. They're not pre-described. They're not paths and sequences of steps as such, but we're leveraging process analysis with more human-centered design. The paths and the agentics are responding dynamically to context like dates and events and rules and patterns that they're learning as they go about creating the actual outcomes that we want. We'll hear more of those stories today. The focus is on the human still, not the system. And agents will be able to do a whole host of different things, making sure that the rules are applied, that they've got the same level of responsibility, but we're allowing things to actually happen with integrity. So unlike Gen AI that provides answers, the newest wave will act. It will collaborate with humans. It doesn't have to. Jobs will be impacted. I'm going to come to that later on. But it will result in new challenges and address those new challenges. It'll move beyond what we've currently got as digital workers to concretely taking action, taking decisions, and more behind. What does all this mean, though? Well, we're at an inflection point, and we've heard that lots of times before in technology circles, but having worked as a chief AI scientist, having seen and researched RPA over the last decade and a bit, and intelligent automation, and now I've spent the last 2-3 years in generative AI, and the last year in agentic AI, the way we will interact will change if we want it to change. When we say we're at a new inflection point, this won't work for all companies. Not that the technology doesn't work. It's that the mindsets have not been transformed and are not changed to allow them to use the technology. If they didn't change with the last lot of technology, they may not change now, but they have to be careful because agents are there. And it's not that they're coming, it's that they're already in place. They're planning holidays. They're acting as virtual caregivers. They're optimizing supply chains on the fly. They're investing in the stock market, and they're doing a whole lot more without the need for human attention, intervention, direction, or input. So the days of limited ability are gone. And if you want this to work, you certainly can. An example of it there is a trip and travel site. I recommend you go into that. And I'm going to talk about other things later on because someone is going to say, but what about emotional intelligence? Well, Marie talking later on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the divide between humans and businesses and workers is disappearing and dissipating at a rate of knots. So let's see what we're actually talking about. What does that actually mean? Some of you will recognize this expert's name, Doug Shannon. I took one liberty and added the word business at the bottom to his quote. If you don't believe me, then start to watch and listen to some of the greatest experts in the world when it comes to automation and agentics. And here's Doug's quote. It's not just another tool, it's an enabler. It will allow business to operate, to scale, to innovate. It will empower, it will solve challenges and create entirely new business possibilities. I couldn't agree more. We're at a third wave of automation, the third wave of agentic or generative AI. Every industry that can be disrupted will be disrupted if you allow it to be disrupted, if you want it to be disrupted. Jobs will be impacted. I make no excuse for that. I don't believe in telling people that jobs will not be impacted to make them feel better. Today, we have far more software engineers than we do saddlers. And if you look here at the roles that are going to appear in terms of artificial intelligence, these are needed. These are much needed in businesses. And I'm constantly surprised why businesses are surprised with new technologies. They forget the career path that people inside of their organizations, which means that certain people become hugely valuable. If you look back in the day, you'll remember RPA engineers who did a 2-week course who were commanding $50,000 plus for salaries within 6 months of graduating. We'll not see the same thing at that same level because there's more engineers here, there's more low-code software, low-code technologies that allow people to be delivered. But don't underestimate this. Your business teams and your leaders need to have a business strategy, a tech strategy, and a people strategy. All those things should go together because jobs will be destroyed. New ones will be created, but the impact of roles will be considerable. And the impact of agentics in replacing human roles will also be considerable as well. What are we talking about? Well, look, if I let you see a picture on the right-hand side, you'll see some example of this. I'm not claiming this is agentic, by the way, in any shape, form, or other. But look, I'm taking an example of Amazon Code Whisperer. Already AI can code, and Amazon wouldn't be putting this out if they couldn't validate the claim. 57% software than software engineers. It can code in 13 computing languages. The software demonstration on the right-hand side is a business person pointing at a workflow, creating automatic code from that workflow and automatically annotating it. And you're excited by that and think, wow, this will work. And it does work because this video is 6-9 months old and this product and platform have moved on immeasurably. But we are going to get to the stage where you can describe it verbally and code will just happen. We are getting to the stage where code will build itself because agentic AI will know the outcome that you need to achieve, and it will draw upon its generative source or its large language model and repository to write the code itself. So what are we going to end up with? More coders, less coders, different coders, owners of agentic bots? The answer is some of those and all of those. We're not going to see things like this done just for the pure hell of it. This is someone who has created a snail chicken. Why you want to, I don't know. But if you move beyond that and look at the magazine quality of what we're seeing in front of us, we have to manually input this at the moment, but there is nothing stopping agentic AI advancing what Procter & Gamble are doing at the moment by creating media ads in response to real-time stimulus or activities. Something happens in the news, the next minute the agentic AI listens, creates the imagery, creates the video, creates the context, creates the text, launches the campaign, writes the text that goes with it to entice us to buy the product, handles the purchasing of the product, handles the communication to us as to what we've done and why we've done it and where the money is and the returns and everything else. It might seem like fantasy, but this is already happening in the world today. Businesses will need this, and later on I'll explain why. And it's not just, as I said, flat files. This is video production, audio production. If I'm in the media industry or the movie industry, I'm going to start to get very worried. This is 8 months old, and I'm deliberately showing you older tech because this is amazing video quality. Look at the shadows of the feet. Look at the person in the background and the shadows on the ground. Look at the human-like movement. And later on, when you look in the video, look to the characters' imperfections deliberately added into this. It's hard to tell whether we have got human or agent. And what we're going to see is all of a sudden not just agents that are happening in the background, but we're going to see AI turning labor into software. And we're not just talking about chatbots that have got a generative AI or agentic AI in the background where they're fetching and deciding and solving. We're going to be talking about agents that look like people. These are the characters from Notebook LLM who've discovered that they're not real. But look at the image of the screens. The one on the left, the chap on the left looks real, sounds real, can react and respond. The lady on the right, or it, maybe not so. But here's an example of virtual workers in a sales site actually handling the questions and the orders. Hopefully you see some of this working.
Hi, I'm Jenny, and welcome to Zara. I'll be here to assist you today. How can I help you?
My best friend's getting married in a few weeks, and I want to look sharp. Could you help me?
Absolutely. To begin, will the venue be warm or cool?
I think it'll be relatively warm.
That sounds great. One of the hottest trends this fall for men with dark hair and bright eyes like yourself is loose-fit pants.
Now, notice, and I'll not overlabor this, and if you look at this, and I'll give you the name of the company, eself.ai, all of a sudden you're getting visual AI to interact with you. And when you play with this technology, it's not that you have to code, as I mentioned before, using line by line, detail by detail. All of a sudden, the generative AI behind this, the agentics behind this, allow you to have fuzzy logic, to move in different directions, to allow your visual AI, your visual chatbot, for want of a better phrase, to be able to answer questions intelligently. Once this then answers the question, you position your order, it will then go and place the order, sort it out, send you an email and everything else. Now, whilst you might argue that the chap on the right-hand side and the lady in the middle, maybe the lady in the middle isn't as humanistic as you want. Part of that's deliberate because people find it disconcerting when they discover that an AI can work with them, can be as emotionally intelligent, and I'm going to come to that later on. But look at eself.ai. I'm not connected with them in any way. It's one technology. There's lots others. You'll hear me using recommendations so you can find out more about these techs later on. But this is agentic AI in action. Where are we ending up, though? Because if everybody can have access to this technology, will we use it? Why will we use it? Well, we got something called global competitiveness, and huge labor changes are actually needed at this moment in time. Why are we saying that? Well, it's like this. I don't mean to be rude to humans. I'm one myself, or at least most days I am. But we waste an inordinate amount of time doing manual work that can be done by a computer. Probably RPA could do that this day in the right circumstances. As could intelligent automation, never mind advanced or autonomous agents. But we don't have the people that we need in the world. We have got very narrow birth rates. We've got a group in the middle who are expected to create and produce everything for us, and we've an aged population. Businesses and governments and societies are looking at this, and then they're seeing the benefits of generative technology, and they'll soon see the benefits of agentic AI or agentic labor. This is a study by Noy and Zhang, who did a bit of work with BCG. They compared 6 months graduates who were given ChatGPT or a version of it, and graduates who'd moved into consulting roles over 2 years. And what they noticed very quickly, the time to actually perform improved dramatically. There was a 40% improvement in quality, a 13% improvement in productivity, a 43% performance boost. So that middle ground can suddenly do more. It's the one saving benefit of humanity, where the middle group, less people will be made unemployed, I hope, because they'll gain generative AI or AI skills, making them more productive to cope with all of us who are getting old or all of us who are having less kids. But look at the figures. They're too competitive. They're too compelling for businesses not to take attention. And I'm not just talking about productivity or innovativeness, because that needs to turn into revenue. You'll hear me coming back and back to that theme, and that's where agentic works. These are studies by McKinsey. Look, a 3 to 15% revenue uplift. That can be significant depending on the size of a business. A 20% sales uplift in ROI, a 7% increase in customer satisfaction from more bespoke and more responsive AI, and a 7% decrease in marketing overhead costs from allowing agentics and AI to take control of the marketing budgets and performance and everything else. So these benefits are too compelling for governments, for countries and societies not to want to invest in. Hence why you see the huge numbers of cash, dollars going into this every year. But what if nations don't invest? So we say there's compelling reasons to do it, but there's always a push and a pull. What if they don't invest? And I hate the top one, but I'll have to come to it because this is one of the things that will drive AI spend and AI nationalism. You will lose military and competitive advantage. What does that mean? That probably means global irrelevance later on. Reduced productivity, of course, depends on foreign AI. It's not to say it's wrong. It could be great. But what if someone is AI, your business or country is dependent upon it, and they turn it off? You leave yourself vulnerable to disruption. You leave yourself vulnerable to stagnant growth, higher costs, decreased quality of life. Or you might see those countries that achieve things, you might see a mass migration of workers. You already see that in the UK and the EU, with lots of workers actually going over to the US. That may accelerate as AI becomes more important. We will see AI and global politics or geopolitics combining. You see a large amount of legislation happening in the world. You see a lot of verbal saber rattling. You're seeing countries being denied access to processors. You're seeing a lot of intellectual property theft. You're seeing people doing things that will give their particular country a military or technological or competitive advantage. And generative AI and agentic AI is something that's going to accelerate that or put that on steroids. So don't underestimate the impact of agentic AI or AI on work, on society, on governments, on national and international competitiveness, and everything else in between. This will be striking. But how do we move from capabilities to disruptions? Well, if you follow the World Economic Report, and I've published a blog on this about it today as well, or a podcast, there will be disruptions in jobs. Look at this. Companies are saying they're going to downsize their workforces due to AI. I find that somewhat hard to believe, but I put it in because the World Economic Forum is a very credible source compared to my lack of research on this. But I marry what I'm seeing in business, and I see people resisting technology. That will slow it down. They shouldn't, because others will. This is an age of digital Darwinism. If you don't invest, your competitors certainly will, and they are, and countries are, and I witness that every single day. But workforces aren't that big. Productivity is low. Countries, governments, businesses need everyone they can get, but the key difference will be is how much they actually invest in AI to get that productivity over the line. Because those who invest in AI will benefit. Those who have AI skills will take over the skills compared to those who actually don't. But do expect AI and agentics to take over roles. Here's a famous UK actress, Sarah. She did a podcast or an audio recording. There was meant to be a series of 5 or 6. She did the first recording and then went, where's my next lot of recording sessions? And they went, we don't need you. We've copied your voice, AI generated. Now that's step number 1, being replaced. Step 2, and these are movements. Now, as you're talking to me on the phone, I can be analyzing your voice. I can be directing you to the next best action. I can have agentic AI pulling data sources and data knowledge from all sorts of databases inside of the company. And if I want, I can go out to a website called Crystal Knows, and I can do a psychometric profile of you based on your LinkedIn or social media profile. And I can guide the agent and who says these are real agents to direct the conversation in a flowing way. I can tell the agent what to say, what to upsell. I can tell them how to respond to you. I can suggest text that will be more personal, more relevant, more inductive and more inducive to get you to do particular actions that I want you to do. All possible. And there will, as I said, be job losses. This is Tana, who's a virtual model, but it gets worse than virtual models, which is just a character in Instagram selling makeup and other outfits. This is about people or virtual robots potentially replacing us as humans. Listen to these. I'll ask you a question afterwards. Which one of these do you think is real?
It's like something was decided for you, and instead of trying to make something that is done.
So notice the shadows and the hairline and the throat and the neck movements and everything else.
If you plan to go for a run and you don't have enough time to do a full run, do part of a run. If you plan to go to the gym today, but you don't have the full hour that you normally work out, do some push-ups.
So I asked you the question, which one is real and which one is not. I've cheated slightly. Both of them are not real. But imagine this. These can sit in front of your business. I wrote an article recently called the 1 billion one-person company. What stops someone on the left being, the CFO of a company, someone on the right being the chief accountant, and able to answer all of the questions that might be thrown at you every day, doing outbound marketing and outbound selling and every other role that possibly exists inside of the company. So what are we going to see? Well, it depends who your perspective is. OpenAI says the future of artificial intelligence is not about machines replacing humans, but humans using AI to elevate their own capabilities, whilst being fair and ethical, ? I actually think that AI will replace a lot of roles. It will impact a lot of roles. It will do a lot of the roles that we have done. And humans need to get skills to allow us to remain relevant in a very AI digital world. And when we talk about relevant, let's take something that everybody should be doing, which is selling every day. And this is, as I said a moment ago, you sort of go, well, how can a robot know me? Well, look what I've shown you to date, and practice and play with some of those technologies and tools. Do you see how intelligent they are? But as I said, I can go to crystalknows.com and I can pull a psychometric profile of you off the internet using an API and a connection, and an agentic bot can go and do that. ping that into a database, attach it to a record that it's got, or search the public internet for everything it needs to know about you, work out your personality profile, and feed an agentic agent information about you to know whether you're risk tolerant, risk averse, trusting or skeptical, optimistic and pragmatic. And it can suddenly adjust the text in real time on the fly and personalize every moment to whether it's selling or servicing or responding to you in any shape, form, or other that it actually wants. Scary, yes. Real, yes. Happening, yes. Here's, for example, Bland.ai, who have created an outbound call system that does exactly that. Let me play you a little bit of this at least, so you get some element of understanding of how the quality of this is actually improved. This is the front end, but imagine the back end where everything's happening automatically as well without the need for human intervention.
Hi, this is Sophie from Bland. I saw you filled out our online form. Is now a good time?
Yeah, now works perfect.
Perfect. Can you tell me a little more about your business?
Yeah, we're trying to automate our political campaigns.
That's a really interesting use case. I'd love to get you set up with an appointment with one of our reps. So next Thursday at 3 work?
Yeah, it works great.
Great. We're looking forward to chatting with you.
All right, bye.
Again, look, very simple workflow, but done and acted upon in the background and the invite sent. And you might go, well, hold on a second here. That looks amazing, but AI can't be as emotionally intelligent as a human. Well, Marie later on will come up and talk a little bit more about emotional intelligence, but let me just show you this tool, Emotionalize AI. All of a sudden, if you look what's happening on the screen, someone has sent a message. And here's the interesting bit for you. Marie may quote this, and apologies, Marie, if I'm stealing your thunder. 32% of us are emotionally intelligent. So the other two sitting beside you must not be, or is it you? Who knows? But this is rewriting text on the fly. In other words, it's making the text that you send back to your customers, your internal staff, your suppliers, your partners, or whatever else, emotionally intelligent. So now not only can AI talk to you, not only can it look like you, not only can it act in real time, not only can it act in dynamic situations, but you can feed agentic AI with personalized psychometric profiles, and you can tell it what to say so that the responses are more intelligent, more emotionally responsive than actual people themselves. What does this mean for us? What does it mean for people in leadership in the age of AI, hopefully augmentation? Well, think about the generation that's coming through. They're no longer digital natives, they're AI natives, they're Uber's children. They know nothing but some part of their life that's been augmented, informed, enriched, empowered by AI. But think about where we've got to date as a society. We're rewarded on our ability to collect and retain and repeat knowledge. Now, when you look at AI, it's collecting the world's knowledge, it's hoovering it up, and it's able to repeat it back. So what's going to happen to us or humanity in an age where AI has the knowledge that we need, or the knowledge that proved valuable to us in the past? Well, the short answer is we're going to have to change our skills. And all of us, not just the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, the Gen Beta who are coming through now as AI natives, all of us in every age group are going to have to become AI natives. All of a sudden, we're going to have to be more Gen Z than we want. We're going to have to be digital. We're going to have to be AI. We're going to have to be fast decision makers. We're going to have to be highly collaborative. The days of choosing not to be a particular something are long gone. What does it mean for you as leaders of business? Well, like everything in life, it doesn't matter whether it's AI or some other tool or technology. You're going to have to win the head, the hearts, and the minds of everyone that you're dealing with. You're going to have to implement the change strategy that explains what we're changing, why we're changing, who's changing, what's not changing. You're going to have to paint a picture. What does it mean to work in a world where humans will be replaced by agentic AI? They will be working with digital colleagues. You will have managers who need to manage digital and people labor, but the digital labor will be working 24/7, achieving things like it's never been achieved before. So how are you going to train them and cope with all of that? How are you going to support people when digital labor is doing some of the things they did or can maybe do it better? How are we going to get those starter jobs going when we don't need them, when AI can suddenly take care of it? Where is the career path that we're hopefully putting into place for the years ahead? How are we going to support people to learn these new skills? What are we going to do to reward or to encourage people to change? Let's see what happens. Will Silicon Valley's war on people continue, or will we learn to embrace great people as well as great technology. But skills will change. This is the World Economic Forum on the left-hand side, their top 10 skills. I put mine on the right. I put them there not out of anything other than a completeness or comparability. But everyone will need to be more digital, more AI, use more automation than anything else. We need to remain curious. We need to remain flexible, cognitively as well as emotionally. We need a global mindset, because the days, and I can see it happening now, where we'll narrow down and become more regional, but that will open up again, because the world's drawbridge needs to open up, because ideas don't come from one country and we all need each other. We need to coach, we need to mentor, we need emotional intelligence, although we may not with the right software. We need to continually innovate, and we need to continually over-communicate to make sure that we bring everyone on this journey with us. I want you to walk away with a couple of messages, though. I'm hugely enthusiastic about technology, but I'm hugely enthusiastic about people. Combined together, we can do amazing things. Sometimes we get so excited about the tech, we invest so much in it, we talk so much about it, and we can rightly do that now. I was never going to wear an £8 virtual reality headset and pay things with blockchain, but AI worked. It's worked for years. I've worked in the industry. I can see what it does. Automation works. But I wonder if we got as excited about people as we did our technology. I wonder if we invested as much in our tech and our people together. I wonder if we got them to work together seamlessly. What type of world could we live in? But I do want to leave you with a warning, because I don't want to give you a happy, clappy outcome. There is a happy outcome to this as well, but I don't want to be atypical, where everybody else says, look, it won't impact your job, it will impact your job. Of course it's going to impact your job, AI. Technology has impacted jobs for decades. But my warning to you is this: if your job is at risk from agentics or AI or automation, then in part your employer, your education system, and you have failed. And I put you into this mix as well, because you own your own development. Technology has disrupted markets for years, but as humans, we're slow to adapt. You must ask yourself why. Knowledge workers are now being impacted, and suddenly AI's impact has hit home. We never worried before about the assistant getting impacted. We never worried about the person in the factory getting impacted, but now it's coming home to roost with us as so-called knowledge workers. Why is that? Why are we surprised? Why have we not prepared for this? This technology's been around for years. Today, you will learn a lot more about agentic AI and AI in general. You should be using this to the nth degree. You should be skilling yourself and not waiting on your employer or anyone else to get you ready for work. So take the warning meant in the most gorgeous sense. Always be open to change, always be curious, always be learning. In the next couple of years, always be learning about AI and agentic AI, and you will do well. I'll move to questions and answers now. We've 10 or so minutes, and then give you a bit of a comfort break before you get into the next session. So let's move to questions and see where we get to. And Claire will probably pop back into the session as well.
Hi, we have plenty of questions here, Kieran.
Let's see how many we can get through. I may need.
I can actually add them to the stage. So let's start with the.
I'm amazed where people are coming from as well, Claire. There's Mumbai, there's Italy, there's New Jersey. My goodness, there's Chicago, Glasgow. I haven't been to Glasgow. I need to get there, by the way. Dublin, Ireland. Welcome, family member. Toronto. I'll be in. Where am I going? Montreal in a couple of months' time. Maybe we'll meet.
So, Kieran, can you see the question on the bottom of the screen?
What is the journey mapping to upskilling existing staff? Well, very short, very quick. Look, this is the key bit. I don't want people I want you to be worried enough to take action. The upskilling is this. You need a comprehensive people strategy, business strategy, and technology strategy combined, and those things working always seamlessly together. So it's not about the journey to, there shouldn't be a new journey to upskill staff. I want every employer, when they hire someone, to have a full and proper onboarding program. I don't want them putting them beside, Kieran in the corner because he's available. I want you to onboard them before they start. I want you to use chatbots and generative AI and learning tools that are very bespoke, ask lots of questions, look at psychometric profiles of the individuals to have them starting on day one already able to compete. I want you to give them the tools and the technology and the training. I want you to think 18 months ahead and be getting them ready for the future, not getting ready for the past. So when we say, what's the path? The path is every single day we should be learning and teaching and growing and coaching and mentoring and providing everyone with the skills they need so that we and businesses and society are relevant 18 months down the line. We're not just looking 1 or 2 days ahead, or at worst a couple of months.
Okay, great, thank you. And a question here from Nick on the screen
Nick,
below.
Good to see you, Nick. What are the remaining barriers to trust for organizations to take AI results and make high-stake decisions? I think there's 2 things here. One is the staff themselves actually trusting the company not to replace them with AI, because when you look back in the day, RPA's promise was, we'll come in and we'll replace human labor. We'll come in, and if you look at what Silicon Valley talk about all the time, is we'll come in and we'll reduce your costs. What they mean is kill jobs. That's never worked. Never ever worked. Agentic AI will disrupt jobs, but as I said, there'll be more jobs created than lost. It'll just be different. So I think we need to rebuild staff's confidence in the first place. The second bit is, look, the technology isn't perfect yet. You may have heard about something called hallucinations or confabulations, or what I call making stuff up, because it's designed to get an answer. So let me give you an example. 2 judges went to court in the US a little while ago. I use the US, but this has happened several places over. They went to court representing an airline, and they said to the judge, here's our legal argument based on legal precedent. And the judge went, I don't recognize that. And the opposition went, I don't recognize those legal cases. And eventually they whinnied out of the 2 lawyers, where did you get your research? And they said, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an engine that, and again, they're all the same, by the way. It's not a criticism of ChatGPT as such, but it's a predictive engine. It looks at text, it predicts what text might go together, and it gives you the answer. It had made up the legal cases. So until such times as we can get this tool to be highly accurate when it needs to be. Notice I said when it needs to be. When it's giving a cancer diagnosis, it needs to be accurate. When it's writing a social media article about something, it can have a little bit of leeway. I use the tooling to get myself 80% of the way there, and then provide my style and judgment and critique and my ability to make sure that it's actually accurate and I'm producing something for my audience. You will see a lot of movement in the next numbers of years to refine the data that goes into it. You will see small language models appearing, not large language models that answer everything. There'll be law language models. There'll be health language models. There'll be physiotherapy language models and all sorts. All those things combined together will improve the quality and accuracy of the data to give you the best answer, to improve the trust that you can have in the tech. But it's about people and technology trust, not one or the other. Okay. Next question. We're running through these, by the way. Should have ChatGPT open, pointed at the screen, or Gemini or Perplexity could answer for us? I have a digital twin, by the way, so if folks want afterwards, I'll share the digital twin and it will answer the questions for you. How can we ensure that our companies give this the proper required attention? And do you have any business cases, similar materials to help us make certain that this information gets into the required attention that you can share? So again, I'll make this available through Claire. I have about 250 articles and 2 books that have described this over the last 2 decades. I have another thing coming out that Claire will talk about in the next couple of weeks, another lot of articles on agentic AI, and a little mini ebook that's going to come out as well that will help explain from a business perspective, not technology perspective, how impactful this is and what you need to do. And again, I recommend it's not just about books, it's about education and masterclasses. It's about real world examples, and the articles that are coming out in the next couple of weeks and the podcasts and everything else that are out and more will come out, give you example after example after example, real examples, as opposed to promises of the future. Agentic AI is in place now. It's disrupting everywhere, or lots of places, for those who are willing to invest. Okay, how are you seeing the adoption of new AI-enabled workflows amongst users? Are users receptive to highly disruptive new workflows, or is it better for AI tools to slot into existing workflows and find efficiency gains where work are? Yeah, look, this comes down to an old question. Back in the day, RPA, before that, screen scraping or automation. It depends what you want to do. Let me start at a very simple statement. It says, start small, think big, scale fast. So whatever you're doing, do something small, get that digital muscle working. Be thinking big, because this technology allows you to do amazing things, and then run hard. So that may be, look, is it into existing things? Yeah, look, but if I ask any business person in any country across the world, and I say, if you were starting your business tomorrow, would you do exactly what you're doing in the same way? They go, hell no. If you really want this to work, you redesign your processes all the way back from the customer. You use all of this amazing technology to allow you to do things that maybe we traditionally did, but you would redesign your business differently. The real challenge in life comes between, but we need to keep running, but we actually need to be a very different business. The best way I've seen of doing that is actually creating a greenhouse business, getting it all up and running and moving everything into that. But it varies per customer, per company, per outcome. Okay, what are the prevailing trend from AI companies to get round company fears, RE privacy concerns, and IP protection? Well, I think there's two answers to this one here. Some of them just ignore it. You know, let's be honest. When you hoover up the internet, you're going to be hoovering up all sorts of IP that you shouldn't be. You'll be hoovering up all sorts of horribleness that you shouldn't be either. So the loosest companies who are innovating fast are actually causing lots of this problems, or causing themselves problems, or us problems. The best companies have something called responsible AI policies. They teach their staff about the risks. They teach their staff about compliance issues. They bring risk and legal and everyone else into the process before they begin doing action. I get the conflict. How do we move fast and break things? How do we legislate ourselves? How do we cope with legislation that's coming in to move quickly compared to our competitors? Because if we don't move quickly, someone who is less responsible will move into our slot. I get all those things, but we've a choice in life as companies. Act responsibly, do the right thing, or hell and be damned. I would prefer if everybody actually did the right thing, please. How are you seeing the adoption of AI enabled? Oh no, this was the same one, I think. Is this a different one, or is this the same one?
Have I already put this one up?
I think you have, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Matthew, if I'm wrong, get me on LinkedIn. I'll personally answer the question for you.
We've got another one here around the...
Do you or do tech leaders
RPA.
expect that AI will replace robots provided by companies like Brute? Is it already? Yeah, look, again, all credible companies, let me move to UiPath just out of no particular reason. Look at Pega.com and a whole host of others. They're actually introducing agentic AI. I hear these gorgeous stories, RPA's dead, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? All these companies are platforms. They've evolved. Back in the day when it was, you know, I call it clickety-click. In other words, they just did things very robot, very point, click, 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 replacing keystrokes. Those are long gone because they never worked. As humans, we're amazing. We think, we act, we decide, we combine, we do all this sort of stuff. Those platforms are progressing. What you really want to do is, again, think 18 months ahead as to where you want your business to be, what the model looks like and everything else. Then go to the provider of the technology and go, do you do this? Do you do that? Show me. Show me. Tick, tick, tick. But they're good platforms. They're evolving all the time. It's hard to keep up with them, which is amazing because that's what they're trying to do. Go out and provide a platform provider who fits your culture and your future technology roadmap. I didn't see a place for questions. Oh, well, now you've got one. The common narrative around AI is that it enhances jobs by automating repetitive tasks, allowing people to focus on more meaningful work, not replacing them. However, AI agents with this narrative no longer holds. Even the CEO roles could be at risk. Yes, I'm glad you said that. You know, Gianni, let's be honest. And I prefer to have honest conversations with people than BS conversations. Roles will be disrupted. Roles are being disrupted. Jobs will be destroyed, just like jobs have been destroyed by technology for years. So the question then comes down to, well, what do I do? Well, you need to look forward in your own career. Don't ever rely just on your employer, the education system, or something else. And you need to get yourself ready for what's coming down the line today, not looking at what has been in the place and trying to get yourself caught up to speed. So yes, jobs will be destroyed, disrupted, changed dramatically and everything else. If we're not careful, yes, in lots of instances, humans will be replaced. Why? Because we've got ourselves into routine. We answer very basic questions. We think of them as you know, careers that are amazing. But if you look at jobs that are performed today, sometimes 80% of that is very routine, repetitive stuff. Any technology could replace that. It's the last 20% that's truly amazing. So how do we get the technology to do the 80%, and then the 20% we throw this type of technology and everything else at it, or not at it? We benefit from that, get the 80% done by something else. I'll tell you this, the more technology I throw at my work, the more it frees me up to do the things that I adore and love. And if I'm not ready for the technology future, to be honest, and this is me personally, I'm not saying it's everyone else, I hold myself accountable, no one else, for me not being ready.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. We will leave it there. Really appreciate that overview and bringing us up to date on where we are with AI today.